John Lewis's passing this last week. With John Lewis's passing this last week, I was reminded that he wrote a book detailing his experience in the civil rights movement. He called it the Walking with the Wind. And it's an interesting title. Within the book, there is an explanation of what that title represents. And I'd like to read for you the passage that explains that title. His words from the book. About 15 of us children were outside my Aunt Seneva's house, playing in her dirt yard. The sky began clouding over, the wind started picking up, lightning flashed far off in the distance, and suddenly I wasn't thinking about playing anymore. I was terrified. Aunt Seneva was the only adult around, and the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, and she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed into it. Small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, and the house was starting to shake. We were scared. Even Aunt Seneva was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend, and then a corner of the room started lifting up. That was when Aunt Seneva told us to clasp hands. Line up and hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. Then she had us walk as a group towards the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house we walked, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction as another end of the house began to lift. And so it went back and forth, 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. More than half a century has passed since that day, and it has struck me, John Lewis, more than once that those many years that our society is not unlike the children in the house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed, they came together, and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift, and we would go there, and eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come, and we would have to do it all over again, and we did. And we still do, all of us, you and I, children holding hands, walking with the wind. I found that passage to be, powerful, certainly appropriate for our time. We have the storms of COVID. We have the storms of the civil rights movement, even now. We have the storms of wealth stratification and inequality, and both economic and racial inequality, as well as other aspects of our society where we are not as we were promised in our Declaration of Independence, that we would be a country of equality. And so we're called upon to be heroes, each in our individual roles that we have in our family, in our community, in the various communities that we're a part of, and we certainly are a part of many different communities. And so we're called upon to be heroes in this shifting time of uncertainty, and it can be daunting. It can be scary. It can be challenging for us to know which corner of the house to move to know how we are going to help hold our structure of our society, of our communities together as we face these challenging times. So it's time for heroes to show up. We see in that story that John shared with us the question of who is the hero in that story. Certainly we could say that Aunt Sunniva was a hero. She was the one that said, okay, we're going to organize, we're going to do this, we're going to do what we can to quiet the wind, or at least to accommodate or protect our community. But also the children were heroes, because in the face of that fearsome wind, of that blinding lightning, of that roaring thunder, they knew what they were. They knew that what they needed to do was what they were being told at the time, to hold hands and walk towards that lifting corner. And we're faced with the same thing, even in the context of, do we wear a mask or not? We are called upon to undergo an inconvenience. For some, they claim that it is a violation of their personal rights, without accommodating that. Along with rights also comes duty for the protection of our communities. And so we're called upon to be heroes in our respective time. It's almost the definition of uncertainty, that we don't know whether we're going to be encountering something good or something bad. Certainly, we are welcome once again. We are called to face the uncertain times, and almost by definition, uncertainty is not knowing whether what is going to happen is either good or bad. And good or bad, these are definitions that we apply to the circumstances. I think we would all agree with that. That in retrospect, we may in fact find that what we thought was a bad time was actually a very good time. It was an important time. It was a transformational time. And so we look upon those events that may be coming as either good or bad, but in retrospect, we may in fact look back there and see that, yes, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be in this state of consciousness where I am today unless I had gone through that circumstance, unless I had seen, and unless I had learned from that circumstance. And that really is the heroic aspect of our encountering uncertainty, is to look upon each circumstance as being a learning opportunity. Susan Jeffers, in her book Embracing Uncertainty, talks about how important it is, even in these times that we seem to characterize as bad, that we learn from this, that we recognize that this is a learning opportunity, that out of chaos comes the opportunity to rise up. And so we're called upon to rise up even in circumstances that we would deem to be bad. So a definition of courage is or a definition of heroism is to show up with courage, or to make the most of a situation, to exhibit our noble qualities. And so every situation that we would consider to be bad gives us the opportunity to show up with courage, to show up with recognizing the opportunity to learn from whatever is happening, to exhibit our noble qualities. So certainly it's easy to embrace the good, it's a challenge to embrace the bad, to recognize that there is a learning opportunity. We've heard about that response to danger as fight or flight, right? Several months ago, I heard, oh no, it's not fight or flight. There's a third condition: fight, flight, or freeze. And I could recognize that. And then this last week, I heard a further extension of that: fight, flight, freeze, or flow. And it is in the flowing that we have the opportunity to express our heroism. And in fact, it's in expressing our heroism, we can see that the bad situations give us the opportunity to flow. So we look at that story about Aunt Seneva, and certainly Aunt Seneva and the children were responding to the danger by flow. They walked with the wind. They encountered the circumstance that needed their attention, and they went to it and they addressed it, even though it was just a matter of walking and adding the weight to that part of the structure. But that really is the circumstance that we are in. I'd like to share with you something that you have seen many times before, perhaps many times before, depending upon how long you've been with us. But we have 5 principles that have emerged out of the teachings of unity. I've labeled them the 5 pillars of faith. But those 5 principles of unity is that there is one power and one presence, God the good, omnipotence. The one Son of God, the Christ, abides in each of us. The thoughts we hold in mind manifest in our experience, and the tools of transformation of consciousness are prayer, meditation, denials, and affirmation. And the 5th principle is that we change our lives by applying these principles. And indeed, having the opportunity to encounter the bad, recognize it as an opportunity for learning, move into the consciousness of flow, and that step to move into the consciousness of flow when we've recognized the circumstance that we've categorized as bad, that's the challenge. And the tools of transformation that we have in unity are prayer, meditation, denials, and affirmations. And that is where we can express our heroism, by practicing those tools of transformation of our own consciousness, and in transformation of what we encounter as our circumstances of the moment. So the tool of prayer is a tool about transforming not the circumstances of the world, but rather transforming our consciousness so that we can encounter the circumstances of the world in a more empowered position. And that's what we do in our offering prayer, is to offer that offer that unconditional love to us. My apologies. I made the mistake of having 2 cups of coffee with milk this morning, and that milk is coming back to revisit me. But boy, I'm up now. So the tool of meditation is about quieting the mind, to allow us to let go of the fear, to be more open to the clues that are present in the circumstances that we are confronted with. So the prayer is about transforming our consciousness, but the meditation is about opening us up to be more effective in listening to the circumstances that surround us. And then the denials and affirmations, and here is where we have truly the opportunity to shift the way we view a circumstance. First of all, the denial is about removing the power that we have given to the circumstance that we are encountering. The affirmation is about empowering us to recognize that the circumstance in which we are sitting is we can address that in a more empowering way. And that so the denial is about removing the power that we have given to the circumstances or relationships, and the affirmation is about empowering our consciousness to recognize the opportunities inherent in every situation. In every situation. What can I learn from this? What is this circumstance presenting me that I can become more capable, that I can become more powerful, that I can become more resilient, that I can become more compassionate? What are the things that I can learn from this circumstance? And so, in applying the denials and affirmations to our situation, we have the opportunity to, first of all, identify or characterize the unwarranted power that we have given to the situation. We recognize it as bad, and in so recognizing it as bad, we have empowered it in some way without justification. Now, we may justify it. We may say, oh, well, that's a terrible circumstance. That's a situation that I don't want to have anything to do with. Susan Jeffers, in her book, Embracing Uncertainty, talks about how she was, as she moved through her career and became a writer and speaker, that she encountered one day the blurriness of her, I think it was her left eye, but the blurriness came on all of a sudden. It was just boom. She couldn't see clearly out of one eye. And so she went to the doctor and she found out that she actually had a blood clot in the artery that was supplying that eye. And so they went about the process of taking care of the blood clot, but the solution was not a perfect solution because she had continued to have blurriness in that eye. And as a writer and a speaker, she was terrified that she was going to lose vision in her other eye. I mean, what happened to the left eye could very well happen to the right eye. So she encountered this circumstance, and this circumstance was foreboding. But the way we would address something like that would be to say, with our denial, that we remove the power that blurriness had, that we have given that blurriness in the eye. And how we would construct that denial can be relatively straightforward by saying something to the effect of, the blurriness in my eye that I'm now experiencing will not detract from my writing and presentation. It will not detract from my career. I still have another eye, but the power that I've given to this, quote, bad circumstance is a power that I can withdraw from it now. And I do that with my denial. This blurriness will not keep me from doing what I have been chosen to do. That prepares the groundwork for our affirmation. Unless we remove the power from that circumstance, the power that we have given to that circumstance, unless we remove it, we are not going to be effective in using our affirmation. And so the affirmation then that we might have for this would be that I am empowered to continue with my writing, to continue with my speaking, to continue with my day-to-day. And I can learn from this circumstance that no matter what I am confronted with, I can still overcome. My creative expressing talents blossom even in this circumstance. So that affirmation, my creative expressing talents can blossom in even this situation, empowers me to address my next moment, the circumstance in which I find myself, with a renewed vigor and vitality, with a renewed consciousness of capability. And so that process then of denial and affirmation is one way that we can transform a moderate or marginal circumstance into an empowering circumstance. Now, it's important for us to recognize that denial is not a lack of recognition of the circumstances in which we find ourselves. A denial is about removing the power that we have given the circumstance. The affirmation is not about blithely claiming something to be true that is not true, a fact that is not a fact, but rather it is about conditioning our own consciousness to engage powerfully with the circumstance that we are confronting. So our denial is the power that I have given to this blurriness in my left eye will not detract from my expressing my ideas and presenting my ideas. The affirmation is, I am empowered to continue with my creative, expressive talents even in this circumstance. And those denials and affirmations are based upon your perspective of the conditions in which you find yourself. So providing a denial and affirmation to someone else is merely an instructive process. It is not something that we can say, here's your denial, here's the way that you should address this. I offer that as an example, but keep in mind that it is just an example. You will need to use your creative powers to construct your denials and your affirmations. So, how are you feeling about this? Let me know what your thinking is. How have you encountered these circumstances, these quote bad circumstances in the past? Have you been able to address them in a way, not necessarily as I've expressed it, but in a similar way? Your thoughts?
I have had that small stroke back in December.
Uh-huh.
And it was caused by a blood clot blocking the flow of blood into the occipital lobe in the back here, which affects the left side, my left eye. Mm-hmm. And but I am aware that cells can be regenerated. The result of this blocking of the blood flow was blocking oxygen to that part of the brain, and the oxygen. The cells that a lot of cells died because of that. But I believe they can be regenerated, and there's some evidence that can be done. And I'm sticking with that. And I'm not totally recovered yet, but I believe I am in the process. I'm noticing improvements.
Recovery in situations like that can take time, for sure. And neurologists have said, neurobiologists have said that the brain, it's easy for me to say, the brain is plastic. It can regenerate. In fact, I just read an article not too many weeks ago that talking about the regenerative power in the brain. So yes, as we affirm that we have that healing power. So we're opening the opportunity for that healing to be more effective. Someone else. Thank you, Glenn. Anyone
this
else?
Is Patrick, and I've been in Unity now 35 years. And David, this talk is perfectly timed. I have on the plaque on my bedroom wall the 5 pillars of faith and prayer, meditation, denials, and affirmation. But what a fantastic reminder in these tough times that we really need to. And that meditation part, to me, is where the creativity comes. We pray about our what we're thinking about, and then we're asking for guidance. And then we can come up with, like you said, the denial and the affirmation. But thank you, perfectly timed.
Charles Fillmore talks about the 5 steps of prayer as being the prayer, that is the expressing, and then the listening, the meditation. And that is a powerful combination of the 5 steps of prayer that Fillmore talks about. Thank you, Patrick. Anyone else?
When I was 33, I had ovarian cancer. At that time, only about 5 to 7% survived. And all I did was totally believe I was going to grow up and see my kids grow up. Every day I held that picture in my heart. And I've never had a reoccurrence of any cancer at all. And one of my best friends was one who had another kind of cancer that's not very survivable. Anyway, her and I used to call each other the survivors. And it was a good friendship.
Yeah, sharing those circumstances, the similar circumstances, can certainly create a strong bond in relationships. Thank you, Sharon. Anyone else? Affirmations are an important part of conditioning our consciousness to see the opportunities that exist even in the bad, quote, the bad circumstances. And our heroism is exhibited as we are willing to see those circumstances as learning opportunities, see those circumstances as empowering opportunities. And so we're called upon to be heroes, whether it be in our shopping trips, in the work that we do, in the relationships that we have, helping friends, reaching out and offering a hand up for those who are in need at the particular time. So we are all called to be heroes in this time. So let's take a few minutes here and settle into that time of meditation, that time of opportunity. So we take several relaxing breaths. And as we do a scan of our body to relax those areas of our body that are presently tense. I like to start at the toes and work my way up. You can do it any way you choose, but since I'm the one leading this, let's start at the toes. Relaxing the toes, feeling the tension in the toes, and realize that the tension in the toes can be released like butter melting in the sun. We allow those muscles in our toes to convey to the muscles in our feet the opportunity to relax. Like butter melting in the sun. And through our feet and past our ankles into our calves. Allowing the muscles to relax. Past the knees into the thighs. Through our buttocks into our torso, our lower back, our abdominal area. Rising up in our backs, in our chest to our shoulders. Down our shoulders into our upper arms, our forearms, into our wrists, our palms, and our fingers. Allowing these muscles to relax like butter melting in the sun. From our shoulders up into our neck, through our jaws and our cheeks, the muscles in our lips, around our nose, around our eyes, our forehead, our scalp. Feeling our whole body relax like butter melting in the sun. Breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to recall a circumstance that was challenging, a circumstance that seemed to have negative impact on your life. Remembering the circumstances surrounding that event. Remembering how you were feeling when you encountered that event. Acknowledge those feelings, acknowledge the fears, the angers, the frustrations, whatever the emotion was, the sadness, any of these so-called negative emotions. They were associated with that bad event. Acknowledge them. And now acknowledge that those emotions were emotions that you applied to the circumstance. The circumstance was as it was, and it was you that labeled it. Articulate that power that you had given to that circumstance. Acknowledge that that power was given to that circumstance by you, by no one else, but by you. And release that power. Let go of the power that you had given to it. And open yourself up to perceive that circumstance as a learning opportunity, from which you could gain talent, gain resilience, gain patience, gain compassion. And affirm those lessons that you have learned, those talents that you have acquired, those skills that have empowered you to address similar circumstances with less fear, anxiety, adverse emotions. Now see if you can step into celebrating that circumstance. Celebrating it for what it gave you. Celebrate it for how it has positively affected your life. And notice that you have transformed what was thought of as bad to something that could be seen as good. You have done that, no one else. It is your working in your consciousness that has allowed you to see it as an empowering circumstance. And every situation that we can come up with, every circumstance that we have labeled as bad, as we consider it in this way, we can see it as an empowering experience in some way. If nothing else, perhaps just the lesson that, oh, I didn't handle that well. But next time, I'll know better. I'll do better because I know better. And now set yourself in this present moment and allow yourself to imagine the future in which circumstances arise They're not categorized as good or bad. They're just categorized as is. And see yourself being able to say, what can I learn from this? How can this empower me? Let me wonder what is going to emerge. Not worry, but wonder what is going to emerge. Let me open myself to the blessings of this moment, of this circumstance. Let me be a hero with courage, expressing my noble characteristics, being empowered by the circumstances that I encounter. I am a child of the divine. I have inherited the divine characteristics, and I choose to express them now. Breathe into that realization. And for this, we give thanks. As we come back into this time, into this space, I'd like to share with you another piece from Patel and Namad.
On my back, I always wanted to be the best in my pack. I always wanted to be known to be good, to be the hero of my own hood. If I could just fly, I could save everyone. Stop all the wars so nobody's gotta run. All the killing, all the crimes, pain and suffering. It's getting tougher to be buffered from it all. Are we gonna make it through? Is he gonna fly back in? Cause if he don't come right now, I don't think good will win. Running now, do we want to wait for him, or is it our time now to bring the good back in? We don't have to leap tall buildings in a single round. There's a lot of good that we can do. Standing on the ground. We don't need a jetpack suit to take us to the ground. It's up to me and you, right here, right now. Superhero, na 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 na. The superhero, whoa, 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 whoa. Superhero, na 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 na. The superhero, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just with so much pain, and though I can't fly, I can do my little part here before I die. Yeah. I may not win the Nobel Prize, but at least I can try to be a little more kind, spend a little more time in my changing life, yeah. Like giving a hug when somebody is down, feeding a soul when there's nobody around. Small things that can change the sound, and the vibe of the spirit that can change the town. Started small, now it's touched the crowd. The crowd is growing, now the word is out that if we all do our parts, we can touch the clouds. Without a cape and a mask, we can touch the clouds, yeah. We don't have to leap tall buildings in a single round. There's a lot of good that we can do. Standing on the ground. We don't need a jetpack suit to take us to the clouds. It's up to me and you. Right here, right now. Superhero. Na 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 na. The superhero. Oh, 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 oh. Superhero. Na 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 na. The superhero. It's the smallest things that make a difference, and all the power's locked within us. All we gotta do is find the key and turn the latch and set it free. Yeah, we don't need to be fast and strong, cause a kind word can go a long way. Help someone whose faith is gone to get back up and carry on. Maybe it's too hard to understand, think it's too much for us to handle, but I promise you that you can, cause you don't need to be a Superman. We don't have to leap tall buildings in a single bound. There's a lot of good that we can do standing on the ground. We don't need a jetpack suit to take us to the clouds. It's up to me and you. Right here, right now. You're a superhero. Feel the soul of nobody around. So superhero. In the vibe of the spirit that can change the town. So superhero. Now the word is out that if we all do superhero. Without a cape and a mask, we can touch the clouds. Yeah.
So, there it is. I'd like to, we have an opportunity here to share our wealth, to share our resources, and I point you to the chat box for the link to our online giving. By the way, if you choose to mail your contribution to the church at 7401 West 59th Avenue, you're certainly welcome to do that. We found out this week that it takes about 2 weeks from the time you mail to the time we receive it. So be patient with that if you're looking at your bank statement to see if it has cleared yet. But let's together share our affirmation, and together be it, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. And thank you for your contributions. Thank you for the support of this ministry. Let's, Maestro, if you would, let there be peace. And we'll do this with the cacophony, so we can all hear each other sing, even if it's not synchronized. We're good.
The vision was meant to be with God has been let us walk the joy perfect harmony. Let please begin. Yeah, I can see to this reason let this be my joyous plans left to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace, Lord. Let it begin with me.
And our prayer for protection. Together, please. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. And I remembered. Kay, if you would.
Wait a second.
Unmute. There we go.
Back in the day, it came before the song. This is fine. As we prepare to release our circle and extinguish this flame, we honor the divine light it represents, and we carry that light within us into the world to protect us, to illuminate us, and to guide our actions.
And so it is.
We hear you, Sharon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. And thank you for your ideas. And one last note, remember that if you would like to just chat or you want to have a talk through of a circumstance, or you want to have a prayer, don't hesitate. Give me a call. My number is in the chat box.
David, no more coffee with creamer before church.
I know. I ran out of cough lozenges this morning too, so I'm going to have to get a new supply.
Go buy some this week.
Yes, get lozenges.
Are you saying that was distracting?
Glass of water.
Believe me, it was distracting to me too.
Even if you run out of toilet paper, get some lozenges.
Okay.
Lozenges. Get some darn cough drops.
All right.
I wanted to say before we all took off and so forth, I wanted to comment to Doug how nice the performance with the trio was last night.
Yes.
Kay and I watched it, and it was very nice. Great presentation. You guys did a great job. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. I miss all the three of you so much, and I'm looking forward to the day we can sit down at a table and have conversation and raise a glass to Don.
Maybe she's out.
We certainly miss him all the time.
Oh, yes.
So much.
Yeah.
Bob and I watched.
That was a good show last night.
I thought the trio sounded good last night, and Ron's wife Kathy was back there, and Jan's boyfriend Michael, and the engineer. They were about 30 feet away in the back of the recital hall, and
That's good to hear.
it was Ron's birthday, and we all went out for pizza and beer, and found a place with a nice outside deck, and it was beautiful last night.
Good.
Nice. Hey, in honor of Don, I was driving back from Colorado Springs yesterday, and I just got my truck out of the shop for all that hail damage it had. They must have disconnected the battery or something, and so all of a sudden there's a disc in my disc player that started playing. And Doug, it was the 2019 Christmas show, Be With You and Don and Bill and Jan. So I listened to the Christmas CD the whole way home. It was beautiful.
Good thing it didn't put you to sleep.
My eyes when I was listening to Don.
You could have run off the road and fallen asleep or something.
Oh, it was absolute. I missed the whole being there every month for the last 8 years and just hanging out. And
was that the one Richard recorded?
Yes, yes. So beautiful. So it was Christmas in July yesterday.
Cool.
And by the way, I also wanted to remind everyone of the picnic, socially distanced, bring your own food and chair, Saturday, August 1st, beginning around 11:30 at Memorial Park behind the police station in Arvada, just down 59th to the west from Living Waters building. So hope you can join us.
August 1st.
And I will be sending out a survey the first part of that week. What is that? That's August. So that's July 25 or July 26. Pinging everyone to see if you're going to be participating. So if you are going to be participating, please respond to that email. Let us know so that we can plan accordingly. Okay.
I want to mention.
David? Okay, David, when are you going to send that survey out? Could you maybe move that up just a little bit so that we have a little time before making other plans or something?
Well, the plan is already identified, or the event is already identified as August 1. The event, the survey or the response request is going to go out on the 25th or 26th. And I wanted to have it within that week so that people would be able to say, oh, yeah, that's right, and I will be attending, or no, if something else come up.
So we're going to have it, but you just want to find out how many will be coming?
Well, it's the question came up during the discussion last week as to whether or not we were actually going to have it, and that was going to depend upon how many people were going to participate.
That's what I'm asking, because we're going to try and go out of town, so I just kind of like to have an idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to mention that Linda Grove has been trying to plan a memorial for Don, looking at August 3rd at Dazzle, but she's having the most recent news is she's getting frustrated and having some issues with that date, especially with getting family up here and stuff, so it might get put off until even next March is what I heard. I don't know.
Okay.
So, keep you updated on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we look forward to that no matter what date.
Doug, Bob and I watched last night too, and it felt so good. It felt wonderful. It sounded wonderful. We really enjoyed it. Missed Dawn, of course, but you guys are awesome. And do you have Venmo?
No, what's that? Is that
That's
like
a
YouTube?
cash transfer
You have Venmo?
facility?
No, I have PayPal.
Yeah, PayPal. Okay. Venmo is really easy to set up.
Yeah, that's what
It's
they
easy
tell
to
me.
use.
But it's actually owned by PayPal, isn't it?
Yes.
It is.
I
But it's
just
a
kept my
separate-
PayPal account.
Yeah.
The thing about Venmo is that the bank through which you are sending the payment and the bank that is receiving the payment both have to be a registered participant in the Venmo system. For me, as an example, our credit union is not recognized by Venmo, or our credit union doesn't recognize Venmo, so I can't use Venmo. But so that presents a bit of a challenge. PayPal is more universally accessible.
Yeah, you just go to PayPal, and my email is my Gmail address, but they listed the link on the video underneath.
And
Roche Doug.
Yeah, rochedoug@gmail.com.
And that link is also in the article that I sent out in newsletter on Saturday, yesterday.
And I promised to share it with Ron.
and Jan.
Jan doesn't any part of the money. She doesn't care about the money part.
Oh, okay.
I'll share it with Ron.
Yeah, Jan is a well-connected lawyer, so she does her singing out of the graciousness and blessings of her heart.
She managed to keep Dazzle open at the last minute on the night they were having their grand reopening, and then the city was going to shut them down. 4:00 that afternoon, the band, was it Dotsero, was on their way there to play, and the place was sold out, and she got on the phone to the city attorney and the state attorney and managed to get it open that night. And kind of they took her argument and realized, yeah, let's go ahead, But so I guess there was an article about that in Westward about her doing that. It's kind of cool.
I didn't know she was an attorney.
She's the attorney for that. She's actually pretty close with Donald, the owner of Dazzle, so she's helped him through all this legal stuff.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I forgot to mention, I have, John and I have a good friend from our Unity back east who's been missing, last seen a week ago Wednesday in Miami. She's had some real issues. Her brother died recently. Her daughter went through a major medical. So we're all concerned. They've been trying to reach out to her. Facebook, her cell phone's off and everything. Her name is Paula. So I forgot to add that to my intentions today.
Let's just take a moment. And what is her name again, Carol?
Her name is Paula.
Okay. Let's just hold Paula in our hearts, offering unconditional love to her. And so it is. I encourage you, by the way, if you have an opportunity, if you hear something that's going on, just take a few, just 15 or 20 seconds, and embrace that circumstance or that person in unconditional love. It's a good practice as we go through the day to, when we encounter something that we feel that unconditional love is an appropriate contribution, that we just take that few seconds to do that. Not only does it help the circumstance and the relationship, but it also transforms us when we do that.
Are we still streaming?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Always ask